Thrawn treats aesthetic choices as strategic vulnerabilities, deconstructing a culture's soul through the tilt of a sculpture or the curve of a canvas. We are diving into the terrifying science of cultural warfare, where a single artistic preference reveals the tactical blunders of a century. To understand the full weight of this radical approach to war, we must first ground ourselves in the man who redefined what it means to conquer a galaxy, and the official Star Wars canon that has shaped his legacy for decades. Myth Ra Naruto, known to the galaxy by his core name Thrawn, is not a typical Star Wars villain. He is not a Sith Lord fueled by rage and hatred, not a power-hungry warlord driven by greed and domination, not a mindless enforcer of the Galactic Empire's tyranny. He is a Chiss military genius, a Grand Admiral of the Imperial Navy, a strategist whose mind works in ways no other character in the Star Wars universe can match. His greatest weapon is not a Star Destroyer, not a lightsaber, not a legion of stormtroopers. It is his ability to read a culture, a species, a commander through their art. And this ability has made him one of the most feared and respected figures in the entire Star Wars saga, both in the Legends continuity and the official Disney canon that guides every piece of Star Wars media we see on screen and in print today. For most of Star Wars history, warfare in the galaxy far, far away has been defined by firepower. The Galactic Republic and the Separatist Alliance fought the Clone Wars with armies of millions of clone troopers and battle droids, with fleets of Star Destroyers and cruisers, with superweapons that could level entire cities in a single blast. The Galactic Empire built its reign of terror on the Death Star, a space station capable of destroying an entire planet in seconds. The First Order followed suit with Starkiller Base, a weapon that could annihilate entire star systems from across the galaxy. Even the Rebel Alliance and the Resistance, the heroes of the saga, measured their strength in the number of starfighters they could field, the number of capital ships they could bring to bear, the amount of firepower they could bring to the fight against tyranny. For every major power in the Star Wars universe, the key to victory has always been found in the armory, in the shipyards, in the factories that build the weapons of war. Every general, every admiral, every leader has believed that the side with the biggest guns, the largest fleet, the most soldiers, will always win the day. Thrawn turns that entire belief system on its head. He does not care about the size of an enemy's fleet. He does not fixate on the number of soldiers they can bring to the battlefield. He does not waste time studying the technical specifications of their weapons, unless those specifications reveal something about the culture that built them. For Thrawn, the key to victory is not in the armory. It is in the art gallery. It is in the paintings on the walls of a government building. It is in the sculptures in the public squares of a capital city. It is in the music played in the streets, the literature written by the people, the tapestries woven by the hands of a culture's artisans. For Thrawn, every piece of art is a window into the soul of the people who created it. And through that window, he can see every weakness, every blind spot, every vulnerability, long before a single shot is fired. This is not a gimmick, not a character quirk, not a throwaway trait added to make Thrawn seem unique. It is the very core of his military philosophy, a method of warfare that has been refined and proven across decades of Star Wars canon, from the pages of Timothy Zahn's groundbreaking Thrawn trilogy that first introduced the character in 1991, to the Star Wars Rebels animated series that brought him into official Disney canon in 2016, to the Ahsoka live-action series that cemented his place as one of the most iconic villains in the modern Star Wars era. Every single appearance of Thrawn in official Star Wars media reinforces this core truth. His ability to decode a culture through its art is not just a party trick. It is a precise, scientific, almost terrifyingly effective system of warfare that has allowed him to conquer entire star systems, defeat numerically superior enemy forces, and outmaneuver every single opponent he has ever faced, with minimal loss of life and resources on his own side. And to understand just how powerful this system is, we have to look at the very first time we see it in action in official canon, and how it immediately sets Thrawn apart from every other military mind in the Star Wars universe. In the 2017 official canon novel Star Wars Thrawn, written by the character's original creator Timothy Zahn, we see Thrawn's first encounter with the Galactic Empire and the first time he demonstrates his art-based warfare to the Imperial officers who dismiss him as a strange blue-skinned alien with no understanding of galactic warfare. Thrawn has been exiled from the Chiss Ascendancy, his home in the unknown regions of the galaxy, and he has been taken into Imperial custody, where he is brought before Emperor Palpatine and Grand Moff Tarkin, two of the most powerful and feared men in the galaxy. Tarkin, the architect of the Death Star, the man who ordered the destruction of Alderaan, is the embodiment of the Empire's firepower-first philosophy. He believes that fear, control, and overwhelming military force are the only ways to maintain order in the galaxy. He looks at Thrawn, a Chiss exile with no military rank, no fleet, no weapons, and he sees nothing but a curiosity, a potential asset at best, a liability at worst. That is, until Thrawn is given a test. The Empire is facing a growing insurgency on the planet of Bataan, a world that supplies the Imperial Navy with critical resources for its star destroyers. The insurgents have been launching hit-and-run attacks on Imperial supply convoys, and the Imperial garrison on the planet has been unable to stop them, despite having overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority. Tarkin gives Thrawn a small fleet of 3-star destroyers and orders him to put down the insurgency as a test of his abilities. The Imperial officers assigned to work with Thrawn are furious. They believe that a foreign alien with no Imperial experience has no business leading an Imperial fleet, and they are convinced that his unorthodox methods will lead to disaster. They spend their time studying the insurgents' military strength, their supply lines, their base locations, the standard data points that every Imperial commander uses to plan a campaign. Thrawn does none of that. Instead, he spends his days studying the art and history of Bataan. He looks at the paintings created by the Batanese people, the sculptures in their capital city, the music they listen to, the folk tales they tell their children. He studies the aesthetic choices of the insurgent leaders, the symbols they use in their propaganda, the way they design their banners and their starfighters. His Imperial subordinates think he has lost his mind. They think he is wasting time, ignoring the real threat, focusing on trivial things, while the insurgents continue to attack Imperial forces. But Thrawn is not wasting time. He is building a complete profile of the insurgents, their culture, their psychology, their tactical blind spots, all through their art. And when he finally launches his campaign, the results are catastrophic for the insurgents and shocking for the Imperial officers watching. Thrawn does not launch a full-scale assault on the insurgents' base, as every other Imperial commander would have done. He does not bomb their supply lines or lay siege to their strongholds. Instead, he launches a series of small, precise strikes, each one targeting a specific weakness that he has identified through his study of the Batanese art. He knows from their paintings that the Batanese people value symmetry and order above all else, that they are deeply uncomfortable with chaos and unpredictability, that they will always revert to a structured, predictable formation when they are under stress. So he launches attacks that break that symmetry, that force the insurgents into chaotic, unpredictable situations where their natural instincts work against them. He knows from their sculptures that the insurgent leader has a deep reverence for the natural landscape of Bataan, that he will never risk damaging the planet's ancient forests, even if it means giving up a tactical advantage. So he uses that reverence against him, positioning his forces in ways that force the insurgents to choose between protecting their home and winning the battle, a choice that Thrawn knows they will never make. He knows from their folktales that the Batanese people have a deep cultural fear of being surrounded, that they will break formation and retreat if they think they are being encircled, even if the encirclement is an illusion. So he creates fake holographic projections of his star destroyers, making it look like his fleet is surrounding the insurgents' base, and the insurgents flee immediately without firing a single shot. In a matter of days, Thrawn puts down an insurgency that the Empire had been unable to defeat for months. He does it with minimal loss of Imperial life, minimal damage to the planet's critical infrastructure, and almost no large-scale combat. He wins the war not with firepower, but with the knowledge he gained from studying the Batanese people's art. And in that moment, Grand Moff Tarkin and Emperor Palpatine realize that they have found something far more dangerous than a new superweapon. They have found a man who can conquer an entire planet, not by blowing it up, but by understanding it, by decoding its soul, by seeing the vulnerabilities that no amount of firepower can hide. hidden in the brushstrokes of a painting, the curve of a sculpture, the rhythm of a song. This is the intellectual mystery at the heart of Thrawn's legacy. For generations, we have been taught that the most powerful weapons in the Star Wars universe are the ones that can destroy the most, the fastest. The Death Star, Starkiller Base, the Sith's ability to wield the dark side of the Force. But Thrawn proves that the most terrifying weapon in the galaxy is not a weapon of destruction at all. It is understanding. It is the ability to look at a piece of art and see the entire soul of the culture that created it. To look at a single brushstroke and know exactly how a commander will react when their back is against the wall. To look at the tilt of a sculpture and see the fatal blind spot in an entire empire's military strategy. This is the science of cultural warfare that we are diving into over the course of this series. We are going to break down exactly how Thrawn's system works, how he decodes a culture through its creative expression, how he turns aesthetic choices into tactical advantages, how he predicts the collapse of entire civilizations before they even realize they are dying. We are going to look at every canonical example of Thrawn's art-based warfare in action, from his earliest appearances in the official novels, to his iconic role in Star Wars Rebels, to his triumphant return in the Ahsoka series. We are going to examine the real-world military and psychological theories that inform Thrawn's methods, the work of military strategists like Karl von Clausewitz, Sun Tzu, and John Boyd, whose theories of warfare and human behavior align perfectly with Thrawn's approach to conquest. We are going to unpack why this method is so much more effective, so much more terrifying than any superweapon the Empire ever built. Because a superweapon can only destroy a planet, Thrawn's method can destroy an entire empire from the inside out without firing a single shot. Many Star Wars fans dismiss Thrawn's art-based strategy as a silly character trait, a gimmick that makes him seem smart without any real substance. They argue that you cannot possibly learn anything meaningful about a military's tactics from a painting, that you cannot predict how a commander will fight from the way they design a sculpture, that it is all just fictional nonsense with no basis in reality. But those fans are missing the point entirely. Thrawn's method is not just fictional. It is rooted in real-world military strategy, in anthropological study, in psychological science. For centuries, military strategists have understood that to defeat an enemy, you must know them. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, over 2,000 years ago, that if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Thrawn takes this ancient wisdom and elevates it to a science. He understands that to truly know an enemy, you cannot just study their battle tactics, their troop numbers, their weapons. You have to understand their history, their philosophy, their values, their deepest subconscious biases. And the purest, most unfiltered expression of those things is always found in art. Because art is not just a form of entertainment or decoration. It is a window into the collective subconscious of a culture. It reveals the things that a people value, the things they fear, the things they aspire to, the blind spots they cannot see in themselves. A culture that values symmetry and order in its art will value symmetry and order in its military tactics. A culture that celebrates chaos and individualism in its creative expression will fight in chaotic, unpredictable ways on the battlefield. A leader who paints with bold, aggressive brushstrokes will lead their troops with bold, aggressive tactics. A leader who creates quiet, restrained sculptures will be cautious, defensive, and slow to adapt to unexpected attacks. These are not just guesses. They are patterns that Thrawn has identified, tested, and proven correct, time and time again, across every campaign he has ever fought. We see this proven again and again in official Star Wars canon, in ways that even the most skeptical fans cannot deny. In Star Wars Rebels, Thrawn is assigned by the Empire to crush the growing rebel cell on the planet Lothal. Lothal, led by Hera Syndulla, Kanan Jarrus, Ezra Bridger, and Sabine Wren. The Empire has been trying to defeat this rebel cell for years, with no success. They have sent dozens of officers, hundreds of stormtroopers, entire fleets of star destroyers, and every time, the rebels outmaneuver them, escape, and strike again. The Imperial commanders on Lothal study the rebels' tactics, their supply lines, Their base locations, the standard data points that every Imperial officer is trained to focus on, but they never see the full picture. They never understand who the rebels are, what drives them, what their core values and weaknesses are, so they keep failing. When Thrawn arrives, he does not start by studying the rebels' military strength. He starts by studying their art. Specifically, he studies the graffiti and mural art of Sabine Wren, the Mandalorian weapons expert and artist of the Ghost Crew. Sabine's art is everywhere on Lothal. She paints anti-Imperial murals on the walls of Imperial buildings. She tags Star Destroyers with her signature Starbird symbol. She designs the logos and banners for the Rebel Cell. Every other Imperial officer sees this art as nothing more than vandalism, a nuisance, a way for the rebels to spread their propaganda. Thrawn sees it for what it really is. A complete map of the rebels' tactics, their strengths, their weaknesses, their very souls. Thrawn studies every line, every color, every symbol in Sabine's art. He notices that her compositions are dynamic, asymmetrical, and unpredictable, that she uses bold, contrasting colors, that she breaks every rule of traditional Imperial and Mandalorian art. From this, he deduces that Sabine is a creative, unconventional thinker, that she will always use unorthodox tactics in battle, that she will never follow the standard rules of engagement that Imperial officers are trained to expect. He notices that her art always centers the people of Lothal, that she highlights the suffering of the planet's citizens under Imperial rule, that she uses her art to give a voice to the oppressed. From this, he deduces that the Rebel Cell's core priority is protecting the people of Lothal, that they will always put the safety of the planet's citizens above their own military objectives, that this is their greatest strength and also their greatest vulnerability. He notices that her art is deeply personal, that she infuses every piece with her own emotions, her own anger at the Empire, her own hope for a better future. From this, he deduces that the Rebel Cell is bound together by personal loyalty, not military hierarchy, that they will risk everything to protect each other, that their bonds are their greatest strength and also a weakness that he can exploit. Using only the knowledge he gains from Sabine's art, Thrawn is able to predict every single move the rebels make, months in advance. He knows when they will attack an Imperial facility, how they will do it, what they will prioritize, what risks they will take, what lines they will never cross. He is able to set traps for them that they walk right into, because he knows exactly how they will react to every situation. He is able to isolate them from their allies, cut off their supply lines, and slowly tighten the noose around their necks, all without ever launching a full-scale assault on their base. For the first time in the entire series, the rebels are not just outgunned, they are outthought. They are facing an enemy who knows them better than they know themselves, all because he took the time to study their art. And this is not a one-off example. This is Thrawn's standard operating procedure. This is how he fights every war, how he defeats every enemy. He does not look at the surface-level data that every other commander fixates on. He looks deeper. He looks at the soul of the enemy, as expressed through their creative expression. And once he understands that soul, he can break it, long before a single shot is fired. This is the intellectual mystery that we are unpacking in this series. How can a single painting hold the key to destroying an entire empire? How can the curve of a sculpture reveal the fatal flaw in a military strategy that has been refined over a century? How can a man conquer the galaxy, not with Star Destroyers and superweapons, but with a deep, unshakable understanding of art, culture, and the human soul? Over the next chapters, we are going to break down every layer of Thrawn's system. We are going to define his core philosophy and how it turns the traditional rules of warfare on their head. We are going to examine how he decodes the geometry of conquest, how he maps a commander's tactical reflexes from the brushstrokes of a painting. We are going to explore how he identifies the artistic markers of a civilization in terminal decline, how he sees the rot in an empire before its own leaders do. We are going to reveal how he uses art to predict the exact moment a regime will collapse, and how he accelerates that collapse without wasting a single Imperial soldier or ship. And finally, we are going to evaluate the lasting legacy of Thrawn's artistic lens, and why it remains the most terrifying weapon in the entire Star Wars universe. We are also going to ground every single part of this analysis in official Star Wars canon to ensure that every claim we make, Every example we use is directly supported by the films, the animated series, the official novels, and the comments of the creators who have shaped Thrawn's character over the decades. We are not going to invent details, or stretch the truth, or rely on non-canonical legends content to make our points. Every single piece of this analysis is rooted in the official Star Wars universe that millions of fans know and love. Because the truth of Thrawn's character is that he does not need exaggerated or invented feats to be impressive. His canonical accomplishments, all rooted in his art-based system of warfare, are more than enough to make him one of the most compelling, terrifying, and brilliant characters in the entire Star Wars saga. So we return to the question that started it all. What if the secret to destroying an entire empire was hidden in its art galleries rather than its armories? For Thrawn, this is not a hypothetical question. It is a proven fact. It is the foundation of his entire military career. It is the system that has allowed him to rise from an exiled Chiss outsider to the highest rank of Grand Admiral in the Galactic Empire, to outmaneuver the Rebel Alliance time and time again, to survive for decades in the unknown regions of the galaxy, to build a new empire on the distant planet of Peridea, and to return to the main galaxy as the greatest threat the New Republic has ever faced. His power does not come from the size of his fleet, or the strength of his weapons, or his connection to the Force. It comes from his ability to see what no one else can, to find the vulnerabilities that no one else knows exist, to decode the soul of an enemy through their art. And that is the terrifying science of cultural warfare that we are diving into in the chapters to come.